Welcome to the second chapter of our lecture on channel coding graph-based codes. And in this chapter, we are going to look at the basic concepts of channel coding. For some of you, this may be a recapitulation, either from Communication Engineering 1 or from other introductory lectures on channel coding, like our other lecture, Channel Coding Algebraic Methods. We subdivide this chapter into multiple subchapters, and each subchapter will be an own video. Some of those subchapters will be further divided into own videos so that you can quickly jump around in the topics in case you want to prepare some topics specifically. We will start this chapter with an introduction to fields and field algebra, because that's the underlying mathematics of the codes that we are going to look at. And we will just give a very quick introduction. We'll have a much more detailed and devoted introduction in fields and field algebra in our other lecture, which is called, or abbreviated, CCAM, Channel Coding Algebraic Methods for Communications and Data Storage. So what is a field? A field is a mathematical object, and essentially the definition is complicated and intimidating when you first see it, but it's essentially a very simple mathematical object. So don't be intimidated by the definition, but you can just think of it. So we have a very lightweight definition. A field F is a set of objects F, which is equipped with two operations. So we have an operation that is called plus, and we have an operation that is called dot. And you can think of these operations as being an addition, a multiplication. If we have an addition, we also have a subtraction, which is obtained by adding the inverse. And we have a division, which is obtained by multiplying with the inverse. So we have the set of objects, we have our operations, and these operations are applied in an analogous manner as we are used to with the real numbers. So all the operations we have learned in high school and in elementary school work in the same way on a field. So formally, this means that a total number of 11 properties must be fulfilled. They are listed here. So it means we must be closed under the addition. What does this mean? This means that if we have two objects or two elements A and B from our set F, it means that their sum must also be an element of F. So if we apply this operation plus, A plus B must also be an element of the set F. Then there should be an additive identity, which means there exists an element in F, and we denote this element as a 0. We don't need to, but usually for simplicity we denote it to 0, such that if we add 0 to A, we end up with A. Then we have a third property, which is the existence of an additive inverse, which means for every element in the set F, there exists another element B, such that when we add A plus B, this will be equal to 0. And this is what we call the additive inverse. So in the real numbers, it would be minus the number. So if we have 2, we add minus 2, we end up with 0. So for every element 2, there should exist a minus 2. It can be a different element, but if we add them using our newly defined operation, we end up with a 0. And then we need to fulfill the usual properties of addition that we know, like associativity, which means the order of additions doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter where we put our parentheses in a set of 3 additions. And we need to have commutativity. So the order also doesn't matter. So A plus B is the same as B plus A. So we have some operations for the addition, and we need to have some properties for the multiplication. There is a little bit more of notation, which we will not need, but if you have a background that is more mathematical in algebra, then you may recognize that if you fulfill F1 to F4, then we say that the elements of F form a group, and if we have F5, we have a commutative group that forms the properties F1 to F4 form the basis of group theory in mathematics. We'll not need that one here, but just for completeness. Then we have closure under multiplication. So it's the same as for the addition. If we multiply two elements A and B, we end up with an element that is part of our object set F. We have a multiplicative identity, which we denote by 1, so that when we multiply A by 1, we get A again. This holds for every element A from our set F, unless A is equal to 0. So for every non-zero element A, whenever we multiply with the identity, we have the element itself. Then there should exist a multiplicative inverse. So again, for every A from the set F, A must not be equal to 0, because we cannot divide by 0 in the real numbers as well. There exists a B such that A times B is equal to 1. And also B times A should be equal to 1. And this is the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal of A. And also here we usually denote it by A to the power minus 1. And then we have associativity. Again, doesn't matter where you put the parentheses. We have commutativity, so the order of the multiplication doesn't influence the result. And we combine addition and multiplication with the law of distributivity. So A times B plus C must be the same as A times B plus A times C for all possible combinations of A, B, and C. So that's a field. And whenever we have a field, it means we can calculate in the same way as we are used to with real numbers. We can use all our tools that we learn for real numbers with this on this field. And that is very powerful, because everything we have learned, we can transport it to another set of objects and to other possible calculations. So let's look at an example. And essentially, we are working with something in this lecture, which is the field with two elements, which we call GF2 or F2. And this field with two elements has addition and multiplication tables that are given here. So we have an addition table which corresponds to the binary exclusive OR operation. And we have a multiplication that corresponds to the logical AND operation. So essentially what we do is we have these logical operations as XOR, exclusive OR, and AND, and we interpret those as addition and multiplication. And we can verify, and this is a good homework that you can do, can verify that F1 to F11 are fulfilled. And this is actually very easy, because you can try out with all the possible combinations. You don't need to have an involved proof. Just by trying all possible combinations, you can easily show that these are fulfilled. So this is essentially a field. And if we interpret exclusive OR and AND as addition and multiplication, we can work just as we work with the real numbers. And that's why this is a very useful field for us. So field, because that's where the binary codes work. And you will see that because we have this field, this is the underlying foundation, we can use matrix multiplication, because matrix multiplication uses addition and multiplication. And we can interpret codes as matrices, we can do matrix multiplication, and everything is well-founded. All the foundations exist because we showed that these are a field. So then, on top of that, we also have other fields. So essentially, we just give very quick example of another field. So we can define a field with 5 elements, F5, and we define the addition and multiplication to be modulo 5. So we have addition modulo 5, and we have multiplication modulo 5. And again, we can set up an addition table with this operation, and we see that all the properties, or we can verify actually that all the properties are fulfilled. So for instance, an additive inverse, so you can see that 3 plus 2 is equal to 0. So essentially minus 3 is equal to 0 in this case. Minus 3 is equal to 2 in this case, because 3 plus 2 is equal to 0. 3 plus minus 3 is equal to 0, and minus 3 is equal to 2. Same, 4 plus 1 is equal to 0. 2 plus 3 is equal to 0, and so on. And 0 plus 0 is also equal to 0. So we have an additive element for the addition. For each element, there exists an inverse. And for the multiplication, we can also see that 1 times 1 is equal to 1, 2 times 3 is equal to 1, 3 times 2 is equal to 1. Okay, it's commutative. And 4 times 4 is also equal to 1. And 0 times every other element is equal to 0. So we have all the 11 properties also fulfilled for the operations modulo 5. And essentially you can show, we'll not do this, but you can show that similar fields can be constructed for every prime numbers. They're denoted as GFP. And all the operations are the addition modulo P and the multiplication modulo P. So there you can do this for every prime number. For instance, this is the addition table for field GF11. So we have 11 entries and all the operations are done modulo 11. And you can also see for the addition, there is an inverse element for each other element. And we can have the same for the multiplication. There is also a one element additive, a multiplicative inverse for each element in this GF11. Unfortunately, it doesn't work if we don't have a prime number. We cannot use the operations modulo 4 because here is an example. So if we use integer operations modulo 4, we see that for the addition, everything is fine, but the element 2 doesn't have a multiplicative inverse. So we cannot multiply 2 with another element modulo 4 such that we reach 1. It doesn't exist. So that's why we cannot use the operations modulo 4 as a field, because we cannot find a multiplicative inverse. And this means that we cannot do some operations. And this is why this is an issue, because in computers, we usually don't want to work with prime numbers. Prime numbers are useful in mathematics, but if it comes to implementation, prime numbers are not essentially useful. Usually we want to work with powers of 2, because that's where computers shine. Powers of 2, they are perfectly well suited for working with powers of 2. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. And fortunately, there is a rescue here, and that is what is called a Galois field. We can construct a Galois field GF4, and that allows us to redefine the operations. You see the operations are different. They have a well-structured meaning, but they are different, and now there exists a one element for each element in this Galois field 4. So we will not use Galois fields in this lecture. If you are interested in how this works, we have the complete lecture CCAM. And in the CCAM lecture, it's called, the A stands for algebraic. There we make heavy use of these fields in order to calculate and use algebra to get decoders and construct decoding schemes in those Galois fields. And these are very powerful methods. In this lecture, we'll stick to the binary case. There are many applications where we can use those algebraic cases, but there are also many applications where we just want to work with binary numbers, especially for high-speed communication applications. We tend to love binary numbers, binary codes. That's why in this lecture we stick to binary numbers. For other applications, we refer to the other lecture. Okay, so this was a very quick introduction to fields, and in the next video we'll look at a very basic introduction to codes and to coding itself.